I wanted to put these two together. We discussed this beforehand, and I put them together because, in my mind, for the most part, you're playing the same list and just deciding whether you're going to call them World Eaters or whether you're going to call them Renegades chapters. These are my corn here. As I said, I'm a big corn player. Really love them. I painted them that way so that I had the choice. So I could go either way with them. So to start talking about it, I think the first thing to do is just cover very briefly both of the Legion traits. So what are the Legion traits for Renegade card?
So Renegade, when I first heard about Renegade, I thought it's a fantastic trait. You can essentially advance and charge, which is, for a close combat army, getting that extra D6 movement is amazing.
Pivotal. Absolutely pivotal.
So D6 for North and for bikes, they can move in a flat 20 inches and then they're still charging. So it means your army, for generally a foot-slogging army, has incredible mobility.
Yeah, absolutely.
World Eaters, tell me about that.
Yeah, so the World Eaters is +1 strength. +1 attack. In fact, on the charge. You would have been the expert. It's +1 attack. Well, it could be +1 strength as well. So +1 attack on the charge, which is, it doesn't sound like much. And honestly, when I was super stoked waiting for World Eaters to be released on the Warhammer community site, and then I saw it, my heart just sunk. And I was thinking they were going to get advanced and charge. I genuinely thought that's what they would get, or some other kind of nifty combo. My heart sunk, and I wasn't that enamored with it.
Yeah, on the face of it, it's not much. But when you think of, when you think of either of these legions, you think Berserkers.
Yeah, of course.
Well, and then you think about more Berserkers, and then you think, what's your list missing? And you think about more Berserkers.
Pretty much, yeah, exactly.
So Berserkers, for anyone who doesn't know, they fight twice.
Yep, that's what's
so each attack is 2 attacks.
And they start with 2 attacks, so actually that's 4 attacks.
Yeah. And then, you're a fool if you don't give them a chainsword as well as a chain axe. So they really have 5 attacks.
Yeah, and then you make them World Eaters, and they have 6.
Yeah. Did we already cover 1, 3, 4, 5?
4 in total, so yeah. But they fight twice, so that's 8.
8 attacks, yeah. If you give them a power fist, you're getting extra power. You get 2 extra power fist attacks on your sergeant,
which is absolutely worth taking. He's base 3 attacks anyway, so he's having 6 attacks, and then World Eaters means he actually gets 8 attacks as well. Yeah. So when you start thinking of it like that, and you're thinking about them in the context of Berserkers, then you realise that Legion trait, what that actually means is to say a 5-man squad of Berserkers with chain axes, which comes in about 105 points, I think it is, with a champ with a power fist. That's your staple unit. That's exactly what you're playing if you're playing World Eaters. And what that Legion trait means is that they get 6 additional Strength 6, AP -1 attacks on the charge, and 2 additional power fist attacks, which are Strength 10, AP -3, D3 damage. That's what you're getting for that Legion trait for that 1 unit, and then when you're just spamming that unit, which is probably what you're going to do, you're getting that across the board. It is, in my mind, the best Legion trait in the entire book. I'm going to be biased, but in terms of raw power, -1 to hit, or an extra 6 Strength 6 AP -1 attacks and 2 power fist attacks per unit.
8 attacks, isn't it?
Yeah, or 6 + 2. So it is. So it's absolutely ridiculously powerful. The only question is whether they need it. If you're charging that unit in, you're killing everything you get into combat with anyway. Do you need those extra attacks? Which is bananas to think about it, but that is the case.
So should we take this to have a quick chat about Berserkers? Because
let's do that. Yeah.
We've both played Berserkers a lot. I played mainly Alpha Legion Berserkers. You played
all of the types of Berserkers.
They're all good. Whatever you play. Yeah. So the great thing about Berserkers is they get the Strength 5 to start with. The Strength 6 if you take their axe. They get 2 attacks base.
Yep.
I personally, I've always given them a chainsword.
I think you have to. The bolt pistol
because you don't want to be shooting stuff. Because your stuff you charge just gets further away.
Exactly. And when you're in combat, you're killing everything in combat anyway, so you're not likely to stay around.
You're not waiting for that next turn to shoot them.
And those 5 bolt pistols aren't going to do much. When those 5 bolt pistols could be 10 chainsword attacks. So definitely worth taking that.
Yeah. And the other great thing about Berserkers is people don't understand how far you can move that unit because they count as charging both times they attack.
They get the +1 attack in both parts of the combat.
And they go first both times. So they go both times. They go before non-charging units. So once you've charged in, so you charge in your 2d6. You consolidate 3 into combat. You pile in 3. You consolidate 3 at the end, And then even if you're not near anything else, you still can pile in 3 and consolidate 3 because you're still a charging unit.
Exactly. So you get 12 inches of movement after you've charged.
After your 2d6 of charge.
Yeah, exactly.
So they are phenomenal.
And what you should always be aware of and have in your back pocket, not necessarily that you're always going to use it, is the Khorne Stratagem. It's not unique to World Eaters, but the Khorne Stratagem, which allows them a unit to fight a third time, or fight twice in the fight phase, but in this case it'd be a third time.
Yeah, and it still counts charging, so you could even use it if you really needed to start moving again.
That extra attack is on the charge then is doubled up again because they're World Eaters, and also you're going to get another 3 to 6 inches of movement. So you actually can have up to 18 inches of movement from the point at which you charge to where you end up, and that is absolutely fantastic. It's fiddly. It takes some time to get used to.
You've got to plan it out, because the other thing about charging is only one of your models has to actually go towards the unit you've charged. The other ones can go wherever they like.
Exactly.
So this cultist, if this obliterator charges in here, he's great. The other ones, as long as they stay in coherency, they can disappear off to some objective over there.
They can go this way, they can go this way, they can go that way.
So I mean, you can use it as a good way to stay up, to claim objective, to tie up units.
Yep.
And when you're fighting twice, you can set up some crazy things that people don't see coming.
You want to that planning out is really important. So if you, for example, you can actually charge with multiple units, obviously, and end up in very different positions to where the board state looks at the start of the game. So particularly if you've got a character that's out of position. So for example, I had a game where I had a Khan, this model here, charging over against the Khan effects. The 5-man Berserker squad's charged a unit over here, and I was looking at it thinking I'm going to do some jiggery pokery to end up with my Khan back in, not being able to be shot by being bubbled around by the Berserkers. But yep, through killing a couple of units over here, fighting again, and all of a sudden he's right back with his friends again. Yeah. So it is some amazing stuff you can do with it, but it does take some practice to get used to it.
So what do you think about big Berserker units versus small ones? Because I've always, mainly because I did Alpha Legion, I did a big 20-man unit of Berserkers.
Yep.
Great for using stratagems on.
Yep.
Absolutely horrendous because you lose stuff from morale.
Yep.
And, people kill you quicker because you're one unit.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you get the bonuses from stratagems and so forth.
Yeah, so if you're playing a big unit, your first problem actually is the delivery system. 20-man Berserker units, in my mind, is the most powerful. But then you are changing your list in order to be able to deliver that 20-man. So either you're playing them Alpha Legion,
and they'll always get shot because no one's going to leave.
Yeah, they're going to go for the target. Yeah. So either you're playing Alpha Legion, which means you can infiltrate them, which is fantastic. But if you don't get first turn, they're going to get shot. Played that a lot, know how it works. Basically, if you're going down that route, from my mind, you want to be taking 40 or 60, so 2 or 3 it's 20-man squads. It's threat overload, and then that's your list. So your entire army is just that.
Berserkers. All your army is Berserkers?
Yeah, well, that's a lot of points. It's
a lot of Berserkers.
That and maybe 2 squads with obliterations, I think, is the list.
Yeah, some token shooting.
Yeah. So that works really well. The other thing is the 20-man squads. You've only got a couple of options for deliveries. Outside of that, you've got the Carbis Assault Claw, which is the Forge World giant dread claw, giant drop pod. Basically, it's a beast. It's amazing. It's like a land raider that can deep strike. Problem with it is that, and this is the problem with all the deep striking methods with them, is that when they come out of the drop pod, they have to be 9 inches away, and then you have to make a 9-inch charge.
And realistically, you can only drop down where your opponent lets you.
Yeah.
So someone like Lewis, he plays 40 cultists. He's going to zone out half the board. Yeah. I'm going to start with my assault unit right in my own backfield. Exactly. I'm not going to drop them down for 2 or 3 turns and cleared that.
Yeah, and it's my big 20-man unit that my whole army hinges on, and then 250 points, whatever it is, for the assault class. So that isn't the best method. Just something to bear in mind for the moment is that you should always be paying the 10 points for the Icon of Wrath, even in a 5-man unit. The Icon of Wrath is the icon that allows them re-rolling all failed charges. They only do stuff, particularly take the axes, they only ever can do damage in combat.
You never ever want to fail that.
You never want to fail that. Even a 2-inch charge, you can roll double ones on it, changes your entire list. So having the re-roll charges is absolutely imperative, even on the 5-man units. Just consider that your 5-man unit, that any unit of Berserkers is 10 points more expensive because you have to take it. So dropping out deep strike, you can re-roll it, but it's still a 9-inch charge. which is just not. I played it too much to realise
9 inches.
You fail it and it doesn't work. So it's just not. It's not reliable. It's a great part of your list if it was just a little extra chunk and maybe if they can come out, but it's just not reliable.
I mean, going back to Renegades, they're more reliable purely because they get on top of that incredible movement that Berserkers get. They get plus D6, so they're way more likely to get into.
And if we want to talk about that for a second, so just finishing off with the 20-man units, your options, obviously, as I said, are the Dreadclaw. You've also got Spartan, which can take 20, or you can put them in a building, which can hold 20 as well. And at first sight, you think, well, maybe the building isn't the way to go.
I've never thought of that.
Right? But then this is the point. So if you take a bastion and put it right at the front of your deployment zone, as close to the people as you can be, you can sit your 20-man, probably best to take Renegade Guard in this instance. They get out and they get 3 inches movement out of the building when they disembark.
The back of your base has to 3 inches.
Yeah,
so they
exactly.
really get 4 inches.
So they're 32 mil bases. Yeah. So you get the 3 inches plus that little bit extra. Then you get your standard 6-inch move. And then you get your advanced move, and then you've got your charge. And if you're taking a 20-man unit, well, that's a suitable target for walk time in my mind. So actually, you can move twice and then charge as well. So those are your delivery methods for the 20-man units. Yeah. The 20-man units are by far the best as well. We talked
briefly about Alpha Legion, didn't we? So they start 9 inches away after the game starts, before the first turn, don't they? We're not going to talk too much about Alpha Legion, but
they'll talk about them in there.
That is the other way to do it. So you move in your first turn.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But if you don't get first turn, then you get shot. So
yeah.
But anyway, coming back to the getting out the building and moving up there. If you're taking a 20-man squad, you are going to be buffing them, which means that they are worth walk time and things like that. The reason you take the 20-man squad is that whilst they are probably, well, certainly in my mind, the best unit as being glass cannon in terms of hitting. They obviously, as being a glass cannon, they die very quickly. They are just free up Marines at the end of the day. And everything in their dog can kill a free up Marine. That's the staple of a list.
I think the great thing about a big unit is you can pin stuff in combat.
That's exactly what my point was,
interrupted you.
No, please, you talk about it because you've done that many times to me. Yeah. So how does that work?
There's two great things. First is, the trouble with Khorne Berserkers, you've got to try not to kill too much. Which is actually a real problem. So in your charge, for your second one, when you're going into a unit, you have to make sure that maybe only 1 or 2 attacks in the actual fight phase, then you consolidate round a unit so they can't physically move back. So your Berserkers here, if you wrap them round one or 2 cultists here, so not Abaddon, he's not here, but these guys, if you wrap them all the way round, then this guy can never move out of combat. It's best to do it to 2 or 3 so they can't just pull 1 casualty and get away with it. Yep. But if they can't move back, then those Berserkers can't be shot. Yep. If they want to come in and fight you in the assault phase, happy days.
And most certainly you're going to kill them.
Yeah, because you're going to fight twice in every assault phase, not just the one you charge.
Yeah. So that little diagram here, this is basically how you want to be playing 20-man units. You want to use that, as we said, up to 18 movement inches of piling and consolidates. In most cases, it's going to be 12. But you need to be thinking when you're charging in, I'm going to kill this unit. I'm going to tag that unit, by that meaning consolidate and pile it into it. Then I'm going to fight again, wrap up at least 1 or 2 of those models there, but not do too much damage. Make sure that I end up in this position, which we call hostage taking. Make sure that with the morale that they don't end up falling back out of combat. And then that means that 20-man squad just can't be hit shot. It's completely cannot be shot in the next turn. And that is your ideal. It is very hard to do.
Right. So let's talk about the main differences between Renegades and World Eaters.
Yep.
In particular, let's talk about stratagems.
Yeah.
That's what 8th edition boils down to, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And a dog. It's a chaos dog. This is the 3rd member of our team, actually. What a legend.
He's going to butt. Do you want to put him?
I think he wants to be part of the video. That's not helping. Let's talk about Renegades.
Indeed.
Renegades. What are the stratagems, or more importantly, what are the lack of stratagems?
Yeah, so I think one thing to point out is if you look at it objectively, obviously people may be aware or may not be, they don't have any of their own stratagems in the book. So if you're playing World Eaters, they have an absolutely amazing stratagem, which is that you get a for 1 CP, you can use any World Eaters unit, so that can be a Helldrake, it can be a Rhino, it can be a squad of Berserkers, whatever it is. And on a 4+, they deny the witch, basically. So they don't have to try and roll over the roll that your opponent rolled. They just have to roll 1 dice on a 4+, and they deny it.
So good.
It is absolutely fantastic. And also for another CP, if you fail it, you can re-roll. So it is a very, very likely chance to...
If you need to shut something down, World Eaters. Yeah, I used a World Eaters Helldrake and loved it.
Yeah, and that was the only thing. You were playing an Alpha Legion list with just 1 World Eaters Helldrake just to be able to use that stratagem, and it's a great strategy.
Yeah.
A lot of lists you'll find will revolve around a certain psychic power. So people play Mortarion, and then they want to warp time him. They really rely on that warp time. Similarly, if you're playing Ynnari and they want to double shoot or soul burst again with one of their Ynnari's, they're building a list that centers around a certain psychic power trying to go off. And the fact that you just have an ability to pretty much, not 100%, but guarantee that it's going to be denied is absolutely pivotal. World Eaters are actually, in my mind, one of the best anti-psychers, if not the best anti-psychers in the entire game.
Yeah,
without having any psychers.
Yeah, you've mentioned there's some really cool little combos you can do with the Demons book as well.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll go into Relics in a second, but just worth talking about the Relics that they also have access to, which the Renegade chapters don't have access to, and that's the Brass Collar Burghast, I think it's called. This is a great name. I'm not quite sure how you model that appropriately, but to be honest, a WYSIWYG. But it's a relic. It's really the main one worth taking on World Eaters, and it means you get Deny the Witch, which they don't have any psychers of, so that's their only other way of getting Deny the Witch. But if you pass the Deny the Witch, so if you deny your opponent's power, then your opponent immediately suffers Perils of the Warp, which is absolutely fantastic. Yeah. But what takes it next level is that if you are playing demons, and you can squeeze in a demon detachment, which is fairly easy to do because there's some quite cheap units there, and get access to the stratagems, then the demons have a stratagem for 1 CP. It's called Possession, I think, Demonic Possession. And what it means is that when they take Perils of the Warp, they take on 2d3. Yeah. So you have 2 options when you're coming up against a really psycho-heavy list, or a list that revolves heavily around certain psychic powers, is you can either pretty much guarantee to deny it, or take the risk that you're going to try and deny it, but when you deny it, they perils, and then they perils on 2d3, which for something like a Primaris Psycho who just goes, oh, I'm just going to try out casting Smite, for example, not Primaris, the Imperial Guard Psycho. He goes, he gets a 5 on it, whatever, goes off. You deny it on 6, then he perils, then he takes 2 to 3 mortal wounds, 4. So
then he starts exploding,
and then he dies, and then he explodes and causes more wounds around it. So that little smite, well, I might as well try it. All of a sudden, has absolutely destroyed their list. Yeah. So some really excellent stuff in there.
I think you can do both, because the World Eaters one's not a deny, so you can do both the World Eaters one, and you can do the denying one.
So if that Mortarion absolutely has to get up the table, you try the deny first. When that doesn't work, then you play 4 CP to definitely deny it. So it is, and just being able to shut down someone's stratagem like that is just that is competitive. That's what we're talking about. Yeah. It's knowing that you have those access to those things, and putting your models in positions to enable you to do that. So you need to be within 24 inches.
So is there any other good stratagems you've come across for Renegades?
Well, not for Renegades, but the one that is the really elephant in the room is that Renegades do not get access to the Veterans of the Long War stratagem, which is bonkers to me, because cultists can have it, but apparently they're more veteran than
it's such a shame.
So it's funny. I can partly understand it. To a certain degree.
I can't think of any other reason.
No, but look, anyway, it means that you can't have access to it. So that 20-man squad that you were taking, that you're thinking you're going to put in a building, you're losing one of the biggest ways you could buff them is to give them +1 to wound, which when you're already strength 6 on the charge, or strength 6 anyway with your Berserkers, being able to wound everything on 3s or 2s, or even being able to take down big knights because you've got the +1 to wound is fantastic. Yeah. So they miss out on having the unique stratagems that the World Eaters have in terms of the deny, but they also miss out on the general stratagems, which is Veterans of the Long War, which in my mind are 2 of the most important stratagems in the book for this type of army to have access to, because you're not going to be taking a lot of psychers necessarily. So that's it. Obviously, they both have access to the fight for a 3rd time, or fight twice stratagem, which is 3 CP, so it is quite heavy. So you've got to make sure you don't make an investment.
When you need it, you need it.
It can be absolutely really powerful. So, but bear in mind that is only on infantry as well. So you can't use that on some of your demon princes or things like that, whereas you can in the demons book. So there's some variances between those. But also, can do. Oh no, sorry, you can't do it on Deep Princes. So ignore that. I was thinking you can fight 4 times, but you can't.
The other thing to mention: World Eaters, Berserkers are troops.
Mm-hmm. That is absolutely key.
And you've got OBSEC on your entire army.
Yeah, and you're going to be spamming them.
And you spam them. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, you're taking 40 of them. You have an OBSEC and just being in the back lines is really, really important. Now the thing is that I had to do a double take when I read it the first time, because it is an FAQ that provides that, and I would highly recommend, if you're considering this army, you do read all the FAQs. There's 3 books, they've all had FAQs, and then there's bits in other books as well. So, and then obviously you've got the Demons one as well. So it is worth reading those FAQs on the Warhammer Community website, and they're really, really useful and they're key. So one of those FAQs made Berserkers Berserkers with the Legion trait World Eaters. It makes them OBSEC. Now, that doesn't mean to say you need to take an entire detachment of World Eaters. You could take a soupy kind of list with, some Renegade Guard, and you can take some demons in that as well. And you can take just 1 squad of Berserkers, and then if you make them World Eaters, then they become OBSEC.
Yeah,
so pretty fantastic.
Got a crazy hound here. Just going to escort him to another room. Why don't you talk about what makes a good World Eaters list in terms of making it up?
Yeah, sure. So if you're starting, you're going to start with the Berserkers. And then your question is, how heavy do you want to go into Berserkers? Because, to be honest, all the stratagems, all the reasons for taking them is going to be revolving around a Berserker heavy list. You could just make your entire army Berserkers, but then you've got to be thinking about what the holes in your list are going to be. So I went to a tournament recently, and I decided to play Berserker heavy. So when I say that, I'm taking 3 rhinos, which is, in my mind, the best delivery system for them. And I was taking 5-man squads, so 2 5-man squads in each rhino, all with power fists. So 2 of the rhinos have 2 5-man squads in it. 1 rhino has 1 8-man squad because it's corn and it's fluffy. And then you have a Dark Apostle and an Exalted Champion. So I'm just going to stop for a second and talk about that, because we haven't in all of this list, and yet these are key to what makes these lists work.
Because you've got to have HQs to your...
There's
got to be something apart from Berserkers.
Exactly.
Just a little something.
And what better something to be than something that gives them reroll hits and wounds. So that is the combo right there for World Eaters and Renegade chapters as well. You're taking 1 Dark Apostle. Dark Apostle lets them use his leadership, which is leadership 9, so it's a little bit of boost on the leadership. But most importantly, reroll all failed hits in the first round of combat. So that is, you're hitting on 3s anyway, and then you're rerolling all failed. So that is better than the Chaos Lord, basically, because he's only rerolling 1s. Yeah. But it only works in combat, but that's where Berserkers are going to be. So that's definitely the starting point. And then the second one is an Exalted Champion.
He's my favourite.
Yeah, he is.
There's very, very few things in this game which give reroll full wounds.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
You get some stuff that has reroll 1s to wound, but reroll all failed wounds is rare. And he's the cheapest as well. I think they're about 70, 75 points each. So absolutely key. I would take both of them, put them in the Rhino with the 8-man squad. That's your 3 Rhino, nice little set there. They're going to blow up a Rhino turn 1. They're going to probably kill whatever's inside it. They're almost certainly going to target the one with 8 guys and the Dark Apostle. But then you've got 20 Berserkers that they're not killing. So if you get first turn, move everything up. Don't go for the long charges. It's rarely worth it. You want to be hitting them with everything at once and overwhelming them. You don't want to be drip feeding the models that they can just pick off. So 3 Rhinos, charge up, smoke launchers first turn, see what you can weather, get out and charge. And remember, you're getting out 3 inches from those rhinos, and then you're charging with reroll charge with the Icon of Wrath as well. So yeah, that is the base of the list. You can build anything around that. I actually took them as a brigade, which is quite unusual to be able to take a full CSM purely 1 Legion brigade. So I took 3 Killshot Preds, which is fantastic, and then I took 3 Hellbrutes and a couple of spawns and stuff. And it worked really well.
Yeah, I mean, for a CP-starved codex like that, it's...
Well,
I've never managed to do a brigade.
Yeah, no, well, you think about it, you charge in and you're going, okay, well, I'm going to be fighting twice or third time with my 3 CP. I'm going to be giving veterans a long war. That's 4 CP before you start. Yeah. Well, you got 12, so you can do it 3 times. So, that is where it can get really, really silly. Other thing worth noting, I mentioned Hellbrutes there. The Legion trait does also work on keyword Hellbrute, which isn't just Hellbrutes. It's also anything with a Hellbrute keyword, which in the Forge World books got FAQ'd so that the Decimators and Contemptors and Leviathans and everything also has the Hellbrute keyword. That works really well because if you take let's just talk about the Hellbrute out of the CSM book. I think it's got 4 attack space. Take 2 close combat weapons, it's got 5 attack space. Give it the Power Scourge, that means it's 7 attacks. And it's World Eaters, which means it has 8 attacks.
That is insane. I mean, that is going to take down the lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And then if it does take wounds in combat, on a roll of a 6, it gets to fight with those 8 attacks again. So it is a really nice little combo. I mean, they die a little bit easier, but we got 3 of them, and they're all running up, and you're just overwhelming the units. There's multiple ways you can build around it. If you think a battalion, a World Eaters battalion is 3 squads or 4 squads of Berserkers in Rhinos with 2 HQs being the Exalted Champion and a Dark Apostle. That's the main part of your list. You know, that right there is nice. It's all succinct. It all fits into the detachment, and then you can bring in whatever crazy soup stuff you want to around that you feel is appropriate. Yeah. My list, the biggest one I had was just anti-flies. I just didn't have enough to take down a lot of flies.
Those chain axes don't reach in the sky.
They don't reach the sky. So you've always got to be thinking about what the drawbacks are. But as I said, there's lots of ways to play them. So I think we've covered most of the stuff from the World Eaters book now. I don't think there's anything we've missed.
No, I think that's pretty good. Back later, next we're going to be talking about
Night Lords.
Yeah. They're underestimated, and we're going to show you why they're good.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Cheers, guys.